Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, will begin visiting college campuses as soon as next week, and I think that their first stop on the tour will be what was already planned, the Utah State University stop. That's scheduled for a week from today, Holly, at Utah State University campus. This is part of the American Comeback Tour, and we're learning now that some local politicians will be part of that equation and will be speakers there.
Yeah, it was interesting for me to learn who those were. And so we have KSL NewsRadio's Adam Small in studio with us to tell us what we know about the event and who's speaking.
Yeah, so Turning Point USA, the American Comeback Tour, they're making a stop at Utah State University a week from today, so September 30th. I believe the event starts at 6:30, though I've been trying to actually lock down what building it's going to be at, and I cannot find it on Utah State's website or Turning Point USA yet, so hopefully more details to come there. But we know this is happening a week from now, and we just learned the speakers there's going to be a panel that's going to include 4 people. That includes Utah Senator Mike Lee, Governor Spencer Cox, former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz, and then as well as Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. So they are all going to be speaking at this event. The tour, obviously, with Charlie Kirk's murder. They've been finding fill-in panelists and speakers for all their stops. I believe they were in Minnesota yesterday, and I believe it was Michael Knowles, who's a very a lot like Charlie Kirk has a huge social media influence of conservative talking points. I believe he was there yesterday. So this entire tour, they're finding people to fill in, and these are going to be the people speaking at Utah State again: Mike Lee, Governor Cox, Jason Chaffetz, and Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs.
I'm assuming also that Erica Kirk will be there. I don't know. I haven't heard. That's Charlie's widow. She spoke at the event on Sunday at the Arizona football stadium, and I would assume she'll at least have a presence there. We don't know. Maybe.
I don't know for sure. I know that she is listed on Turning Point USA's website as one of the fill-in speakers. So I don't know if she's planning on maybe one specific event being a panelist or if she's going to be stopping at every single event. I know she does have a very intricate involvement with them. I don't know for sure if she will be in Logan, though.
Can I ask you some questions about the style of this event? You said there's a panel, so I have never attended a Charlie Kirk event. What is this panel style discussion?
Yeah, so if it's anything how Charlie conducted his in-person events on campuses before his death, the way this works is you set your speaker. I mean, again, this was Charlie, but they're filling it in with panelists instead. You have your speaker. Was Charlie going to be these panelists? You set them in one place, and it's basically like an open mic session. People can come up to a microphone and ask, hey, how do you feel about, gang violence? How do you feel about immigration? How do you feel about where the economy is going? Like you can basically ask open-ended questions and actually have conversations. That's how Charlie Kirk would have these one-on-one peaceful debates with people. So I imagine this panel is going to have that same kind of setup. People will be able to walk up to the microphone, ask a question, and they can chime in on, hey, here's how I feel this issue is. Here's what we should be doing.
So instead of just one speaker, Charlie, now we're going to see a series of speakers.
Exactly, yeah. So it sounds like this is an opportunity where if you attend, if you can get up to the mic, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people there, but you can get up and you have a question for Governor Cox, Senator Lee, Jason Chaffetz. You can get up there and ask them, hey, how do you feel about this particular issue? And you can talk back and forth, have that peaceful discourse.
It almost sounds a little bit more like a rally than the debate format that he had in the past. And maybe not, because you're going to have 4 speakers. And I guess if the public wants to come up and ask questions, do we want to ask one specifically to Jason Chaffetz? Do we want to ask one to Senator Lee? You know what I mean? It seemed like that would sort of disrupt the flow a little bit. And with 4 speakers, it might take up most of the time anyway. I'm sort of speaking rhetorically here, but I would assume that at least for this first one, especially in light of the fact that the murder is only within the last 2 or 3 weeks, that it might be more of a, I don't know, uplifting sort of, emotional ceremony rather than a debate.
Yeah. And that actually was a good transition point there. So Deseret News actually got an interview with the COO of Turning Point Action. He told them that, so again, we know this is going to be an indoor event, but he talked about this event is going to be focused on, it's going to be very Utah-centric. How does Utah move forward, and how do Utahns and everyone collectively heal from the tragedy that took place here in our state at UVU, now just going on almost 2 weeks now. It's like, how do we how do we move forward? How do we heal? I know that is going to be a big part of it. I am just assuming that, with the way that Charlie ran his in-person events, I assume there is going to be some time for question and answer with the panelists. But I do know, based on that statement from Turning Point Action, that it is going to be very centered on how does Utah move forward? How do we heal from this?
What kind of security are we looking at?
Yeah, so actually, obviously, USU is taking every precaution after what happened. I mean, we've talked about heightened security for over a week now. So I'm looking on their website, and they've talked about how they are going to have detailed security planning, crowd safety resources, effective crowd management. I'm just going over a few of these. Close protection for the speakers. They also have crisis response coordination readiness. I imagine there's also just going to be a very heavy law enforcement presence. I'm just looking over the stuff that they listed a few days ago now, so I imagine they're making more plans as we go. But they are taking this very seriously. They put out a statement pretty much as soon as we publicly knew that Turning Point USA was going to go here. I mean, after what happened, just so recently on one of our campuses, they're not taking any chances.
So
Go
let
ahead.
me just do a
Yeah,
follow
yeah,
up if that's
absolutely.
okay. Are we looking at? I know Charlie really wanted that outdoor event at UVU. Is that changing going forward?
I know, again, for this event it's indoor. I haven't looked at all the details of every event around the country, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think the indoor it's a little bit easier to secure. I imagine that would be part of it. And it's just kind of sad too, if I can just kind of editorialize for a minute. It's like Charlie loved being out. And part of the reason he loved it being outside is because more people could trickle in. They would walk through campus and they'd see, oh, what's going on? And they could come in and listen. It was kind of like that invitation aspect of the conversation. It's kind of sad to see that they have to move to that indoor conversation setup. But I would imagine that at least for this tour, I got to look at all the events and locations, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's a change they make, at least in the short term, because it's just too soon.
Yeah, and I was going to ask a similar question, but indoors, at least for the first 2 or 3 or 4 events, make a little bit more sense in terms of security, and maybe they can open it up eventually. I'm trying to think of my experience at Utah State University. I mean, certainly there's the Spectrum where they play their basketball and big events that would hold what's needed here, and at Utah Valley University, I think we had a crowd of about 3,500 people, which was pretty big. I don't know that there's anything at Utah State that can hold that other than the Spectrum, which obviously can hold 2 or 3 times that. But I know I'm speculating here, and you don't know where it's going to be held, but it's a week away. You expect that they would make that selection fairly soon.
Yeah, and maybe I've just looked in the wrong places too. I mean, there's a ton of information going around from the school and Turning Point USA. There's news outlets putting stuff out there too. But I mean, the Spectrum would be a very logical place. I mean, maybe there's another building on campus that could hold that. But I think with the crowd size and the people that are expected, I think that could be a safe guess. But again, if we get more information, we'll be sure to share it. I mean, I could definitely say that. So
I have one final question in the time we have remaining. You've mentioned this tour and that it's ongoing. How long is this tour scheduled to go? Do you know?
I took a brief look at the dates. So this is actually one of the first stops. I believe they have, I want to say, one more stop this week, and then this starts their tour date next week. But I think they do a couple of tour stops per week, and it goes through November. But I think we're on the early, again, they just kicked off their first one in Minnesota yesterday. I want to say there's between about 8 and a dozen total stops around the country with all these guest speakers. Utah State, I believe, is the 3rd or 4th stop, so we're pretty early on. But again, the tour itself goes into November, the dates I looked up. So
Wow, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that information. It's ongoing, and it's interesting to me that they're going to continue this. It doesn't sound like they really slowed down, even with what they had scheduled. So
Right. That was KSL NewsRadio's Adam Small. I didn't realize they had already picked up the pace. I thought Utah State was their next after the murder.
it wasn't, right?
Yeah,
It's the second one in
interesting.
Utah, but they're not back to
misstated
back.
that. Yeah. I would also expect that they may make these sort of regional, and that is when you're at Utah State, you get the Utah connection, you get Utah senator, Utah governor,
sure.
former Utah legislator, and in Minnesota, you may have people from there and maybe have a little bit of a local flair until they can get, their, I guess his widow, who's probably going to take the lead going forward. When we come back, yesterday, President Trump linked autism to acetaminophen, the generic name for Tylenol, and proposed a treatment used to treat side effects for that's been used for cancer treatments. We'll talk about what you need to know after the break.